God bless you. My name is Minister Lizanne Espina from Love Gospel Assembly, and I'm here to share another episode of Nuggets of Hope. We've been teaching on the mighty works of God, the different miracles. We've heard of the way God heals people physically and so many other ways. But today I want to share about a miracle that some would probably wonder why is that something Jesus would do in his time. And it's about the turning of water into wine. And that's found in John chapter 2, verses 1 to 12. And as we read that passage, we see it says, on the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied, "My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water," so they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." Now, this is kind of interesting because the question would probably be is, why would Jesus be involved in the wine business? What purpose would that miracle have? And I want to take it from the viewpoint that it's not just about turning water into wine, that it has a deeper meaning. It has a deeper meaning for the people of Jesus' time, and it has a different message for us today, or a different lesson for us today. It's so interesting that Jesus was invited to the wedding, and that during the wedding, they ran out of wine, something that they were depending on. And I think that is an important point. They ran out of something they were depending on. And so Mary, his mother, went to him. And it's important to note that when he says, "Woman, why do you involve me?" he's not being disrespectful. Woman was a term that was used in his time in not a disrespectful manner. It's not like how some people would use it today, like, "Woman, get me my food." No, it wasn't like that at all, It was a very caring way. And we have to understand that when we use different words in a different time and in a different culture. So he says, "Woman, why do you involve me?" But he also says, "My hour has not yet come," which is very interesting because he's letting her know that he's here for a greater purpose. He's on earth. He's here present. He took the incarnate form with an intentional purpose. And so they come to him with the situation that what they depended on was no longer available. And so they turn to him, and he takes water and he changes into wine. And then when he presents it to the master, it goes on to say in verse 9, "And the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, 'Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now.'" What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory. And his disciples believed in him. So it's very, very important to know that custom of that time in the wedding, they will bring the best wine first and eventually lead to wine that was of less value. But now, because of the miracle, they were tasting wine of the best quality. And I think the meaning behind that is so much deeper than just a miracle of water to wine. You see, he's sending them the message that he's here for a greater cause. It was a sign, it said in verse 11, which revealed his glory. And so here we see that in the wedding, the thing they depended on, wine, was no longer available. It was no longer something they could depend on. So they turned to Jesus, or Mary turned to Jesus, and they followed what he said. They trusted his direction. And so in their time also, they're following laws and they're following tradition, and that had its place. But in reality, there was a need for a savior. And Jesus is on the scene because he is better than the sacrifices they have. He's better than the law. He's better than the things that were taught through Moses. He is the ultimate sacrifice, and he is walking his path and purpose to the cross. So this miracle was the first sign to reveal the glory of a savior on the scene. And it's also to let us know that when the things that we depend on are not there for us, when we're going through things and we're going through challenges, or we've accustomed to rely on things of tradition or habits or customs, and even that falls short, the reality is the best that we need is in Jesus Christ. So it's not about the things that we can depend on, it's about who we trust. You see, the servants took the water and they followed his directions, and the miracle happened. They didn't have wine. They couldn't depend on that anymore. They turned to Jesus, and now they had a better wine. And if that time they had the law and Jesus came to fulfill the law, so now as we trust in Jesus, we find that we have a savior. We have a King of Kings. So it's so beautiful in verse 11, because verse 11 really tells us the key to this miracle. What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed the glory, and his disciples believed in him. So it's much more than water being turned to wine. It's letting us know that the things of the world, we can depend on them, but it's all temporal. But when Jesus is on the scene, we can trust in him, and he is our Savior. He is our Redeemer, and in him we can trust. God bless you.
Thank you for joining us in this week's Nuggets of Hope. We hope you continue to join us, and we hope that you are blessed by each teaching. You can join us on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. God bless you.